Welcome back. Today we have an extra special treat for everybody. My guest today is a former MLB pitcher, a Boston Red Sox All-Star, a two-time World Series winner, and one of the rare modern knuckleballers. Drafted by the Indians out of the University of Hawaii, not before making stops in Orleans, Massachusetts. He fought through injuries, reinvention, and the hidden struggles of life in pro baseball. He's here to share not just the game highlights, but the real story behind them. He's also an entrepreneur, a dad, and a friend. My guest today, number 35, Steve Wright.
What's up? How's it going?
What's up, brother?
You can be an announcer.
Well, you want to know what? I was thinking I had definitely been to some of your games and watched you pitch. I'm a big Red Sox fan, and as you know, obviously, but I was just like number 35. I used to love you came out with the flat brimish hat, that was a little bit different. I was like, I could fuck with this guy for sure.
I was different. I could tell you that much. Everything I did different.
Oh man, that's a what a great way to start the podcast, because that I'm different too, right? And a lot of people are different, and being able to beat to your own drum and figuring out who you are and being the person that you want to become is such like an important giddy up in life, and is often missed. And that obviously not for you. You're living out you lived out your dream. You're living out your dream. That must have been a pretty fascinating time in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about how you were going through just your baseball career, the quick and dirty, about coming up and before you came to the Red Sox?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Moreno Valley, California, which is Riverside County, which is right outside of LA, towards Palm Springs, kind of right in the middle of the desert. Grew up, all I did was play baseball. I mean, that's all I ever wanted to do. I mean, I was a shortstop, I was a pitcher, I was a catcher. I kind of played everything. I could hit really good for high school, and then I got drafted out of high school, but I decided to go to college. Went to University of Hawaii and played there for 3 years. Was a normal pitcher, right? Mid-90s, slider, curveball, changeup, like everybody else. Got drafted high. I was in the second round, and so I went to the Indians, and then just, I kind of progressed really well. I had really good control, so like I never really walked that many guys, and so then it just got to a certain point, right, where velocity started to come and be more prevalent in the game, and and I threw hard, but I didn't throw gas, right? I was in upper 90s. I touched 94, 95 every now and then. And then, fast forward, that was 2006, and then fast forward all the way to 2010, I was struggling, right? Start AAA, kind of go up and down, and, the minor leagues, and then it's like next thing you know, you're just kind of getting lost in the shuffle because, every year there's another draft, right? And so they get these guys that come up throwing 100, and even though they had no idea where the ball was going, but they were throwing 100, and that was what was getting noticed at the time. And so I was just messing around one day, kind of over it. And one of the coaches, Greg Hibbert and Jason Beret, saw me messing around on the mound with a knuckleball. And I had always known how to throw it from when I was a kid, but I wasn't like I took instructions, right? Like I was shown it, and I just started messing with it and messing with it and messing with it over the course of like 15 years. And so, same you're talking about, playing in the Cape. Like that's the first time I ever threw it in a game, was in the Cape Cod League, right? And
Who was it versus?
we were playing YD.
Okay, yeah, a little Yarmouth Dennis, baby.
I'll tell you that story if you want to hear it. So
I would like to hear it. I'm a South Shore, Massachusetts kid. I grew up in Easton, and my family grew up going down and rooting for the A's down in Chatham. Or I know, dude, I know. But hey, man, you took them out 2005. That was a wonderful game. That the semifinals there. But I love the Cape League. Cape League baseball is the best. It is. There's nothing better in the world than going to a Cape League game and sitting down and watching. And I want to talk about that experience with you a little bit.
Yeah, man. I went out there. It was a weird story, kind of how I even got to the team is because I went the year before, the summer before, I went and played up in the Alaska League for the Peninsula Oilers. And, my coaches in Hawaii were trying to get me to go back. And I was like, no. I mean, it's like Cape or bust type thing, right? And at the time,
Yeah.
I didn't have any offers. I didn't have any jobs. And then at the time, we had a bunch of guys make the go to the Team USA trials, and so I was planning on going they have like a tryout before, and so I was planning on just to go out to the tryout and see if I can become like a tent player because they'll bring in a lot of tent players while guys are on Team USA or in the College World Series. And so we had both, right? And so I go out there, and finally, like 2 weeks before or 10 days before, I get a call saying that they wanted me. They had a spot for me in Orleans, and so I go out to Orleans to be a starter. Um, Coach K, Kelly Nicholson, who's still there, it was his first year managing. He was a coach, but he was managing. Picked me up from the airport. We start driving. Got pulled over because he didn't yield to the car in the roundabout. That was my first experience, man. We get pulled over, and we're like, "Oh, welcome to the Cape," right? Uh,
Yeah.
but it was awesome, man. I had a great family. But everybody that goes out there is a starter, right? And I've always been a reliever, starter. I've kind of been able to do both because for me, it never bothered me to start, relieve, middle relief, close. Like mentally, to me, it's still pitching, right? Like the difference is you're either starting the game or you're ending the game. But at the end of the day, you got to get outs, right? Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
the first out or the last out, you got to get outs, right? And so
Yeah.
I ended up telling him, I was like, I don't mind being a reliever. Well, it turned out to be the best decision I ever made, is because I became the closer. And so my velocity rose a little bit. Obviously, you're playing in the Cape. You're playing against the best players in the country at the time at the collegiate level. And we ended up. I think I won like relief pitcher of the year. Like I only gave up like
Yeah. You did.
one run. It was incredible, man. But as far as the knuckleball goes, like you're messing around, and so every now and then I would throw it, playing catch, and like it was really good. And so all the guys are thinking it's funny to catch it, and then everybody kept talking like, bro, like if you ever, I was the closer, so every time I was coming in, the game was always on the line. So I'm like, dude, I can't throw it in the game, like it's not possible. So finally, we ended up having a run to where like we were winning by a lot, and like every game. So I didn't have an opportunity to play. And so Coach K told me going into that game at YD, he says, no matter what, you're pitching today. Win, lose, whatever. You're throwing at least one inning. It's either going to be the eighth inning or the ninth inning. So then all of a sudden, dude, we just started putting on runs, right? It's like we're up by like 8, 9, 10 runs. I don't know exactly what, but then all the guys are like, bro, like throw it in the game. Throw the knuckleball in the game. I'm like, all right. I was like, so I'm in the bullpen warming up. Scott Jealous is not catching it, and I'm like, damn, it felt pretty good. I was like, all right, like I think I could do this. So I get in, and the catcher, oh man, I never forget it. He's like, hey man, he's like, am I hearing this right? You want to throw the knuckleball? And I said, listen, if I get 2 quick outs, I'm gonna throw the knuckleball. And he was like, all right. So like, first batter of the inning, like ground out to short. Next pitch, strike one. Third pitch, like pop up. And I'm like, oh man, here we go. And everybody, it was cool because everybody from the bullpen, everybody came down. Dude, I threw a knuckleball. It was like 88 miles an hour, dude. It was like, and it was, I can't remember. It was probably a ball. And then I threw got a strike. So I was 1-1. Then I threw it again. And I was like, and it just drilled the catcher. And then I was like, all right, we're done. So then I ended up, I don't know what happened. We got the out, game over. And then everybody's like, what the hell? Like, you got to start throwing that. I did not throw it again in a game until that was 2005. I did not throw it in a game until 2010. So 5 years later, I ended up throwing it as an out pitch. Kind of the same mentality as I did in the Cape, but I was using it like a split finger fork ball,
Hmm.
a swing and miss pitch. And then it kind of just evolved into the next year. I started working with Candiotti, and then Charlie Huff, and then the rest is kind of is known. But playing in the Cape, man, that was the best experience for that I could ever have had. I mean, it was the closest you're going to get to professional baseball, to prepare you for you're playing every day against the best players.
Yeah, you're playing against the best players every single day, and they keep it like they run it so organized and so it's like a well-oiled machine. And I talk to a lot of these guys just from being at the stadium and sharing experience with them, and it's like this is what an incredible opportunity for the best players to get to come do this. You get to use wooden bats, which in college is different. They use aluminum bats, and so that the MLB guys get a different perspective on you. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing that it exists, and I hope that it does forever.
Yeah, man, I think it's definitely I think it's changed for the better from what I'm hearing is because I think MLB is starting to recognize that it's a great way to kind of invest in the future of the MLB. Because I remember looking back now, I'm 40 now, so this was a long time ago, almost 20 years ago, and so you look at all the guys that were in that league at the time, and it's like you got Hall of Famers, you got All Stars, you got Cy Young Award winners, you got World Series champions, you got and you're looking at that was 2005, right? And then if you go back before then, and then you go from since then, and it's just constantly just it's just a bunch of great baseball players because it's a pitcher's league, right? And so it doesn't matter how good all these college hitters are. Like it is always going to be a pitcher's league because they go from wood bats to metal bats, and you're playing on high school fields that the lights aren't that good. Everybody's going out there as a pitcher. They're throwing 100 now, and they're throwing it 100 every single time because everybody's trying to get seen. They're trying to get recognized. They're trying to put themselves on the map for the upcoming draft, right? And so it's one of those things. Though, if you can go in there and hit. Like, Evan Longoria went in there and he raked, right?
Yeah,
And that's why he was number 3 overall, right? And then you get Coughlin and you get all these guys that were on the Chatham A's. I mean, their lineup was stacked, right? Alex
yeah,
was on the team. I mean, Todd Frazier was on the team. I mean, they
yeah,
had a team that was just Andrew Miller, lefty, was on the team. Jared
yes,
up there throwing. I mean, dude, they were stacked. And we just, for us at Orleans, we just played small ball, right? Like we didn't win a bunch of games by a lot of runs. We won a lot of games by a short amount of runs. That's why I got 12 saves or whatever I ended up getting. It's because I had that many opportunities because it's just, that's the type of baseball, right? So I think that's the beauty of it too, because you get these powerhouses that come in there and they stack these teams, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win because it comes down to just getting 27 outs first.
yeah. Is it all work, or do you guys get to play as well? Like, did you ever get into the Squire in Chatham? Downtown
Uh,
Chatham.
Well, legally, no, because I was not 21.
Oh, giddy up!
I had a fake ID when I was there, so I had a little bit of fun, but it's not what it's just hard because
Yeah,
you're playing every day and you don't have the money like you do when you get to pro ball. I mean, you're not making any money unless mommy or daddy is giving you some cash, and I didn't have that at all. And so I
yeah,
had a job. I worked at one of the local grocery stores. I can't think of the name of it right now. And it was awesome. I mean, the people there were great. They were all locals. I mean, it definitely gave me a different perspective of life, right? Because it's like you wake up in the morning to go do a shift in the deli station, and then I did the pre-made sandwiches and the delis and the chicken rotisserie chickens, put them on the skewers, and then it's like
yeah,
you hang them up, get them ready, and then it's like, all right, you work till noon, and then now you got to go to the field, right, and then play, right. And it's like, so it was definitely a different way, but of living for us, because in college, like, my whole life I never had a job other than just play baseball. So it kind of opens your eyes to reality. But man, it was a good all around life experience. Going back to my junior year of college.
Yeah, yeah, invaluable, and because you threw that knuckleball, that could have been that was probably the start of it right there. You did it in a game and said, "Ooh, I can do that again."
Yeah, I never even thought about it, to be honest with you, because I never thought I couldn't.
I love
It's
it.
like I never thought like that. Like it was even when got noticed in 2010. Like one of the things that Greg Hibbert, he was like, hey, can you throw that for a strike? And I'm like, yeah, it's not that hard, right? It's not that hard unless you get somebody in the batter's box with runners at second and third, with two outs or whatever. Then it's like now you got to throw it. Everybody knows you're throwing. You're just playing catch. It's not that hard. Like I can go out there right now, and I mean they're not going to be great knuckleballs, but I could throw strikes. It's not that hard for me, right?
Right.
It's like it's not that hard for me to throw a ball over the plate, right? It's like I can do that. Even right now, I can do it probably 7 or 8 out of 10 times, like no problem, right? It's different when a guy gets in the box because it's not about just throwing it over the plate. It's about making quality pitches and quality counts and staying aggressive and throwing good knuckleballs. You can't throw two bad ones in a row. You can get away with one, but you can't get away with two. And so it's a matter of being able to
Ah.
focus on your mechanics to be able to go out there and repeat your delivery no matter what the situation is, whether it's nobody on, nobody out in the first inning, or you're trying to get the last out of the game, right? You got to be able to maintain that same focus every single pitch because for me, like there was no room for error because I wasn't throwing it 95 plus, right? I'm throwing it at 75 to 76. And if I throw a really, really good one, it's nasty, right? And you all of a sudden you're on, Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff because you throw a really good knuckleball, but that's one pitch. So it's like, okay, I got to follow that one up and say, oh, that was nasty. It's all of a sudden like there's one that keeps going around where it hits Sandy in the chest. It's like, well, that was one pitch out of 110. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's cool. You get a little snip peek, but it's like I got to get the ball and do it again, and then I got to get the ball and do it again, and then now you got to do that, and then you got to hold runners. And so once you get into that aspect of it, it does get challenging, but it's still pretty simple because I'm only throwing one pitch.
Yeah, but sometimes you would throw other pitches, right? Like I would see you like sometimes you juice it up and you throw, a low 90s fastball and right? I remember seeing that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things you try not to. You try to do it in.
Okay.
Yeah, you try to do it in an account where because if I'm throwing say a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and they know that it's coming in a hitter's count, that's batting practice,
Right.
right? But if
But from you, would they be able to tell from your delivery because based on that, like an MLB hitter is going to be able to tell
uh,
what's coming down the pipe? Because if you're expecting a 75-mile-an-hour, knuckleball gearing up, and then you get a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, that might would that, I don't know.
I mean, the goal is no, like you got to, and that's where you can't. You have to change your deliveries for the knuckleball, right? Like you got to be able to do that every time, and then your fastball has to be the exact same as your knuckleball mechanics, right? And
Mm.
that's where it gets a little confusing for kids, and why personally I don't think teaching a kid how to throw a knuckleball is the right way to go because they don't know how to throw fastballs. They don't know how to be able to maximize their capacity, hit that ceiling with whether it's velocity, strength. You got to focus on the ability to repeat your delivery because if you don't know how to throw a fastball where you want it 9 out of 10 times, then you're showing to me that you aren't consistent with your mechanics and your release point. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to throw a ball that doesn't spin because you got to be perfect with your mechanics every time, and you got to be able to have the feel. So you got to know when, like, you got to be able to go all the way from your feet all the way up to your fingertips and know if I throw a bad one, I got to know right now what went wrong, so I don't do it twice.
Damn.
You
Yeah,
know,
that yeah, man. It's cool. It's cool to hear that from your head and to have been there and watched you pitched and it's just such a fascinating thing and you were great. You really were and the when you got to the Red Sox and you crushed it. You were an all-star. Uh, how what was Boston like? Did you like living in Boston? Did you like the team? Would love to hear maybe some of your favorite teammates or some of your favorite moments from Boston.
man, I loved everything about Boston. It's I got called up. I got tapped on the shoulder to go to the big leagues when the bombs went off. Right, so that was my introduction to Boston. Was right after because it was on the the Boston Marathon day, Patriots game. So I met the team in Cleveland, and then when we came back, that's when they had all the police departments and fire departments out. So it was like to be able to see a city come together on a tragedy like that and be able to hold hands. It's like this is a city that this is how our country should be, right? Not just to be able to see one city be able to do that. It's like why can't we do that as a nation, right? It's like it's always been so divided, us versus them, and to be able to for a glimpse to know that the city shuts down to be like, you're not going to do this to our people. We're going to shut down the city and we are going to find you. And they did. And they did exactly what they should do, right? When there's terror in our country, right? So that was my introduction to Boston, right? Which I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, brother. I don't want to interrupt you here. I'm sorry. I got the hair standing up my arms over here. I was in school at that point in 2013 when it happened, and we were at a bar. We were at the Bleacher Bar, which you might even know of. It's a big place where the Red Sox is about zero point 0.3 miles from the stadium, and we were there watching the marathon and enjoying the games and just having a day of it. And that happened, and got all my friends up to my apartment on Mission Hill, and we all came together and just watch this unfold. I've never seen so many people be quiet and watching the TV, and and then once we came together, made it happen pretty quickly. The city took care of it, and me and my friends remember we're like, okay, we're gonna go down to back where it started. Let's go to the bars. Let's go to Boylston Street. Let's go to the bars down there. And so we leave our apartment. We start walking down the street, and by the time we get to the middle of Mission Hill, there was 1,000 people in the street partying, celebrating this victory together. And to see that happen, there was no malice. There was nothing negative about it. The cops came. We knew there was definitely some underage people there, but the cops came. They shut off the streets. Blocked it off with their cars. Was drinking beers with the police officers. People were chanting BPD, and it was a good time to be alive.
It was incredible, man. I remember I was standing on the field, and I'll never forget it. Me and Victorino were standing next to each other, and me and Vic go all the way back to my Hawaii days. And when David Ortiz made that speech, and we were like, did he say what I think he just said? And they were trying to bash him on the freaking ESPN about him cussing on TV. We're like, what are you think? Like, are you kidding me? That's the problem in our country, right? It's like, it doesn't matter how positive something can be. Somebody's going to find one little thing to point out so they can cause some sort of headlines, right? And that's when you're like, dude, the media is so full of shit on 95% of things because everybody's trying to fight to create the same story. So they got to find a little nugget to stand out, even if it's negative, right? But it was shut down by the mayor. I mean, Marty just came in and was like, him and the Marty Walsh, right?
Yeah, Marty Walsh, yep.
Yeah, he came in and was like, we're not going to do nothing. MLB came in and basically were like, we're not. I mean, come on, bro. Like you just got done 2 days ago. 2 bombs went off.
Yeah, this is our fucking city.
It is.
34 told us, and 34 will always, tell us that that's a giddy up.
Think about Boston Red Sox, man. You're thinking Ted Williams. You're thinking even Babe Ruth a little bit, right?
Carl Yastrzemski.
Yes, you're thinking of, and David Ortiz is right freaking there. There's a reason why his number is up in right field, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it is, man. That's what David was, man. And so speaking of favorite teammates, I mean, David's at the top, man, because David is David, man. It don't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you can do something for him or nothing for him. He treated everybody the exact same, and that's how I always lived my life, man. I was like, it doesn't matter if it's somebody, because I always told myself you should treat the person that can do nothing for you the same as somebody that can do everything for you. Because if you can keep that mentality, then you're never going to be fake. You never got to put on a front if you are just the same person, regardless of who you're around. And you see this sometimes with whether it's celebrities or athletes or business people. It's like, the worst thing that I hate when I walk into a room and I'm talking to somebody is when somebody's looking for somebody else in the room. You know what
dude.
I'm saying? It's like,
100%.
I hate that. I can tell. I'm looking at you in your eyes, and if I see you look now, if you tell me you're looking for somebody, say, hey man, like I am looking for some, be front. I'm looking for somebody. I'm waiting for them to walk in. Hey, all good, bro. Like it's all good. Like I'll talk to you or not talk to you. It ain't gonna hurt my feelings. But like, but that was what was beautiful about Boston when I first got there, man, is we had so many leaders on our team. I mean, you look at the 13 team with you had Knapp, you had Petey, you had Steven Drew, you had Whittle Millbrooks, you had Salty, you had Rossi, you had Vic, you had Shakovi, you had Johnny, you had Lackey, Dempster, Buck, you had Peavy, then you start it's like, Hannerhan. You get all these guys and you're like, you literally have an all-star lineup. Like it was ours to lose that entire season. And then you add the bomb on top of that. And it's like now you give us more of a reason to want to win. It's like, come on now. And so it was, I got lucky, man. Like I had a lot of great mentors that really taught me how to handle playing in Boston, playing in the big leagues. Then 14 and 15 were great. A lot of up and downs between there and Pawtucket. And then 2016, man, I made it. I went to spring training trying to make the damn team, and I ended up making the starter, because Eddie Rodriguez went down in spring training. And the next thing you know, it was just like everything was just clicking, man. It was just one after another until I got hurt, and then it went downhill.
Yeah, the knee.
That was the shoulder, and then the knee, then the knee.
That was the shoulder first, right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, and then the elbow, right?
And then I had the elbow. I got the elbow. That was the 2019 was when I left the Red Sox. They released me like 2 days before my surgery.
The business of it, right?
Business of baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
No,
just
man.
you're just a pawn in the game. As long as you're relevant, then they love you. And the moment you're a liability, it's like, oh, see you later. Deal with workman's comp.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like with any other business, unfortunately. But yeah, man, it's just amazing to hear that from you. Uh, that those teams, they were so impactful to Boston and to what the culture of the city was. And it's funny because people still go to Fenway Park and they're still watching the team. And I love Alex Cora and I love what they're trying to do. It's good, but it's just it's not quite the same, as when it was. And what you said about um, you know whether you're going to talk to somebody, it doesn't matter, if they can do something for you or not. That doesn't matter. Like that was the identity that really spoke through to the team. It was just like a bunch of regular guys, a bunch of good, solid baseball players who just were going to put, the team above themselves. And, the clubhouse was probably great. And, you just to see that was amazing. And I feel like it's not not to speak badly about the Red Sox now, but I feel like that winning culture isn't quite there anymore.
It's honestly, man, I don't really watch baseball no more because I just don't think it's baseball. I think it's gotten to the point where the entertainment aspect of the game has has lost what it really used to mean, right? The entertainment, the show, right, was going out there and playing an incredibly hard game and making it look easy, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
aspect, right? You're working on counts. You're working on, you're trying to make pitches. You're trying to put the ball in play. You're trying to move guys over. You're trying to get guys in. There is no, your reward if you hit a home run is that you get a jog around the bases. And now they're, with all this showboating and flashy and all to me, like I don't. It's a bad move for our younger generation because I was actually last night at my son's game and he's 9 years old and you got these kids that are cracking beers and drinking it and going like this and you're like, what are we doing? They're 9 years old. These kids can't even barely field a ground ball or play catch and now they're showboating because they tagged a guy out. Like, and you're like sitting here like that is not good. Baseball is not good because that's all they see on TV, and they think that now that's how they can act. And then you get this huge thing. I think baseball is they're missing the mark on that, man. Is They are making it to the point where it is so much more about showboating and entertainment in the sense to where it's not entertaining just to play baseball. And they've done all these things to condense these games, right? So it's like, oh, we need to bring more people in to condense these games. They're putting, in between clocks, you got pitch clocks, and now you got people calling it in their ear and touching little, buttons. And it's like, and now they're becoming, and this is my opinion, that they're creating like almost everybody to be on autopilot, right? Because now there's no longevity, right? You get certain guys that are getting these massive contracts that everybody hears about, but then you got the middle players to where you get these pitchers in particular that are coming in, they're teaching them their whole life that they got to throw 100 miles an hour, you got to do a spin rate, you got to work on your gyro, everything is a two-strike pitch, right? So now everything they're throwing, and then they went from sticky to non-sticky in the middle of a season, which is the most retarded thing you could ever do, because now these kids, their entire career since they were kids, were taught about spin rate. And there's only one way to increase your spin rate once you hit your ceiling, and that's a substance. And MLB knew they were doing substances, and then in the middle of the season, boom, can't use it no more. So then you're seeing these injuries come up, and it's like, it wouldn't surprise me if everybody's using stick again. It was like a fad for a little bit. Oh, we're cracking down on all this stick stuff. And it's like, oh, bullshit. No, you're not. They're just like, they just need to hide it better. That's all I used to tell people. It's like, listen, I'm all for it. If you can pitch with it, but you got to hide it, man. You can't be having it in your glove and on your hat and in your hands. Like, you got to figure out a way to put it on the ball to be able to make a pitch. Because at the end of the day, if a hitter can use that to have a better grip on their bat, a pitcher should be able to do that to have a better grip on the ball. But they become dependent on that every single pitch to where they don't know how to pitch without it. But that's MLB's fault because they rap Soto and Hawkeye and all these, analytics. And that's who's running the game. It ain't baseball guys that are running this game. They're analysts that are running these games. There's people that are looking at spreadsheets and they're looking at all these launch angles and trying to figure out ways. Oh, a guy, it doesn't matter that, Blake Snell's our Cy Young Award winner and he just went 7 straight shutout innings on the 3rd time through the order over the course of a season. The guys are hitting 300. Watch the damn game.
Watch the homie throwing gas and smoke and keep him in the game. Keep him in there.
You ride or die with your every time. I don't care. You ride or die with them, but then you start looking at workloads and you're starting to put all these things together and you're like, dude, I remember when guys that used to throw 115 pitches and come back 5 days later and throw 115 pitches, and can they do that for a full season? Yes. But because they don't know how to pitch when they're not at their best. So now you have these guys that are throwing 115 pitches in 4 or 5 innings. Oh, but they struck out 9 guys. I was like, yeah, they threw 115 pitches in 4 innings.
Burned themselves out.
And then now people are forgetting that now that's a workload for your bullpen, your middle relievers, not your closers. It's the guys in the middle that nobody knows about. Because it's a revolving door. They don't care if they get hurt. They're going to send them off. They're going to get surgery. They're going to go rehab. And then if they do come back, great. If not, boom, we'll find somebody else. We'll bring him in. We'll DFA him or we'll just release him or we'll trade him or whatever. Because it's like to them, it's just numbers. It's like we just need to fill that gap to go from the starter to the relief to the closers. Where they say they care to, but they haven't shown it.
Let me introduce you to Elevate, a premium functional mushroom company focused on supporting your highest potential. They offer a range of powerful supplements crafted from the finest medicinal fungi designed to naturally enhance your well-being. Elevate carries everything from mushroom tinctures, capsules, and teas to their delicious mushroom-infused coffees. All of their products are made with USA-grown mushrooms and contain only wild medicinal mushrooms, no psychoactive compounds. I personally use their Focus Tincture every day and love their chai tea blend. It's my go-to for a calming yet energizing boost. Elevate's products support mental clarity, immunity, and overall vitality. They ship nationwide, so whether you're new to functional mushrooms or already a fan, Elevate has something for you. Check them out at shopelevatemushrooms.com, where you will find a detailed description of each product and experience the difference for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I hear you 100% on that, and it's frustrating because you want to see the people. It's just like it's almost like it's a it's analogous to the world at large, right? Like the top, the top percent, does really well, and the bottom, can do okay too. But that middle class, those middle is always just fighting and scratching to get by, and they're really the ones who are the foundation. They're the foundations of, if you don't have them, then the game can't continue, life can't continue, society can't continue.
Especially in baseball, man. Like, unless you got like teams that win or teams that have good bullpens, but they have healthy bullpens, right? And it's like, and the only way you can maintain a healthy bullpen is you got to have good starters. You got to have starters being able to go to 6-7 innings. If you got 5 starters, like every rotation, you need at least 3 to go 6+,
Mm-hmm.
if not more, 7+. Your number ones and number twos, they need to be going out there. But then you look at risk, right? When you get these guys that are making 30, 40 million a year, it's like they're trying to manage those workloads because they're trying to get an ROI. They're just trying to get people in the seats.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah,
if I can get them in the seats, say 35 times a year, to where they know X player is going to come in and pitch, and they know people are going to come and watch it. It's like, all right, he only throws 5 innings, boom, we'll pull him out, or 6 innings. And yeah, you still got your stars and your superstars that are going to go out there and throw, 6, 7+ innings. But I think it's more about ticket sales. It's all about promotions, right? And that's, but in some teams like the Dodgers are doing a great job with that, man, because they're doing both, right? They're able to promote and win because they got guys that go out there and they understand the game. But they're veterans, dude. They're not going out. And that's when you get all these teams that are going out and they're just, they get these massive TV contracts, and yet it's not going to the players. It's going to somebody else, right? And so then you got these teams that are, worth billions of dollars, and yet their payroll is under 60 million.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think there just needs to be some change and some fight back for the the non-elite superstar players. The people who make up the bulk of the league. I think there needs to be some just more care taken for them, 100%.
Oh,
Now, in your career, I know you dealt with tons of injuries, and I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I've had my own dealings with with opiates and with substances, and I'm just I know you've spoken a little bit about this, and is it something that that happened in your career? It's something that's happened in your career, and so I just want to talk about that a little bit. If you could share with me, how you were going through those injuries and managing that pain, and the expectations that you had to you put on yourself, and just kind of how you went through that journey and how you've come back from that journey.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think Advils, I used to call them Skittles, right? I used to just eat them, just pop them, right? Like it was nothing, right? Take 4 or 5 at a time, right? And, that was just before I had any injuries. That's just what you did, right? I mean, Nolan Ryan took a leave. I mean, so that says something, right? So you got these promotions, right? You got all these pills everywhere you go. You can get pretty much whatever you want. I mean, they weren't handing out like Toradol like it was candy, but you can get pretty much anything else. And that's, when I had my first surgery, it wasn't too bad. I had a sports hernia in 14. I came back from that, was decent. And then, when I hurt my shoulder, that's when things went south, right? So I ended up getting pinch running for David Ortiz in 2016, and I dove back into the bag and I suplexed my shoulder, and I had a bruise on underneath my supraspinatus that just wouldn't heal. Like, I mean, I couldn't lift my arm. There was no structural damage, and they want to go straight to injections, and I'm like, no, like I'm good. Like, I ended up getting a cortisone in my bursa sac in my shoulder. And I was taking Celebrex, Indocin. I can't, they're not all at the same time, but I had a regimen, right? Get the dose pad, all that stuff, and then I remember they kept talking about possibly doing Toradol, and at the time I wasn't familiar with Toradol at all. I mean, I heard about all the stories about guys that were pitching on it back in the day. They were getting it before every start. Guys are just, and I just was afraid, right? Because I just, that stuff, it wasn't the addiction aspect that I was afraid of. It was the fact that if I take something and I don't feel it, eventually it's going to wear off to where am I going to feel it then? Am I damaging myself more by taking something to go out there and perform when in reality there was no security for me to go out there and put my body on the line. Like I wasn't on a long-term deal. Like they weren't giving me some long-term contract for me to be willing to go out there. And if I blow my shoulder out, like, okay, maybe I make another couple $100,000, but I'm not a long-term deal for next year. They can release me and I'm gone. Right. So I ended up taking it one time in Tampa. I threw a bullpen, but I could still feel something was wrong. Right, I could still feel, even though my bullpen was good, and it was good. It was a legit bullpen. Like I looked good, I felt decent, ball coming out of my hand, but I could just feel something just felt off. And so I shut it down. I said, I can't do this, man. I can't do it. And then, they're talking about other guys and their contracts. Oh, this guy does this before every game. And I'm like, I'm not him. I'm not getting 90 or 100 or 50 million guaranteed no matter what. If you want to give me a long-term contract right now, you can shoot me up with whatever the hell you want. And so, but I still kept taking the painkillers, everything else. I wouldn't mess with Toradol ever again. And then, that was in 16. And then coming in at 17, I still had shoulder problems. And then I was still sitting there trying to figure out, like, what is going on. And then I hurt my knee, right? And then when I hurt my knee, that's when things just went south because then it got to a point where I'm sitting there trying to pitch and my knee was like that big, right? So we're like, I had to get a special brace. So once I got it was my beautiful bride.
Hey, giddy up.
And then, I had my a special brace made. I had to get my pants had to get tailored to fit that brace. I couldn't walk. Literally, my knee was bent. The whole 2017, I was pitching with a massive brace, and my knee was like, it was massive. It was probably triple the size, like to the point where you could push putty on it. And they were like, "Oh no, keep going out there. Like, you're good. It's not that bad. We'll fix it at the end. Synvisc, Orthovisc, all those different, synovial fluid type of remedies." And so I did that, and it got to a point where like I couldn't walk. And what happened was I had an osteochondral defect, so I ended up having an osteochondral allograft to where the not a doctor, but I should know that the articular cartilage. It tore off the bone and it started floating around in my knee and got stuck in the joint space to where it got stuck here. So whenever I tried to do that and compress it, it would lock up. And so I couldn't walk. And so I ended up having what they said was a small tear and it becoming a massive tear. And so I go to a doctor and he was like, dude, you're fucked. He was like, you're pretty much fucked. He was like, there's two options. One, you can get a partial knee replacement, or two, you get an osteochondral allograft. He's like, it had never been done in baseball. And so he's like, we can do it and we can try. And so I had to go with that option, right? And it's like, and there's a lot darker side I don't want to get into on like options and because it's a business, man. It's an ROI. They're trying to get guys back on the field as fast as they can. And this was a surgery that wasn't going to guarantee any of that. And so that was the only option I had that made sense because if that tear gets bigger, now those two options are no longer on the table. Now I got to get a full knee replacement. Right. So I go with that option, which was pretty much the only option. And I rehabbed it. And at the same time, dude, I'm constantly just taking pills, taking the oxys, taking all these different painkillers. And then, I got introduced to cannabis. Right. And so with cannabis, it's always been taboo, right, to talk about, but it got to a point where I'm like, I'm from California. I was already very well known about cannabis. That's all I did in high school was smoke weed. Like I wasn't much of a drinker. I was more a smoker. I just didn't like not being in control, when I was drinking. But then when you kept telling the drug, cannabis is the gateway drug. It's this, you can't do it. And then you get to pro ball and you get into the minor leagues and you can't smoke. Like you're not allowed to use cannabis until you get to the 40 man. So once you get to the 40 man, now they don't test for it. And so they've changed it now. Now everybody can smoke cannabis. And so, but before, when I first, like, I know guys that they have been suspended for over 100 games for failing for cannabis. Multiple people.
That's so brutal. That's their life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taking their life away from them.
But
So it's always been that way with the four. If you made it to the 40 man, you were good. You could smoke and engage, and it was a thing that did take place.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. I think and this is only because I know that culturally it exists in places too where we have a lot of baseball players coming from, smoking, and that's just a part of their culture.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of people are doing it for things that we know why now. People are doing it because they helped them sleep, helped them recover. And it's like, and you start looking at the drug lists of why is it on WADA, right? Why is WADA banning it, right? It's not because it's a performance enhancer, it's because it's a recovery. It's all about recovery, but recovery is performance enhancing because the people that can recover the fastest are the ones that are going to perform the best. And so I went down, I talked to some buddies in California. I was able to get kind of walk through because I was like, listen, I'm not chasing the high. I just don't want, I'm not afraid of it, but that's not what I'm not doing this just to get high. I'm doing this to get through PT because every time I'd go in there feeling good, but I was binged up on Oxy or whatever, some of these other, Motrin 800s and all this stuff. Like, yeah, my PT was great, but I couldn't feel when I needed to back off because it felt so good. And then all of a sudden it would wear off and my knee would flare up. And then when I went back to the season, I ended up not doing cannabis because I was afraid. So I started, and I was rehabbing, I was doing good. And then, I came back, and then they had me starting, and then the starting was what just blew my knee up again. So I went back on the DL for that. And then they had me doing some retarded, like, recovery jumping and Y balance and all this stuff to where, the jumping was what kept sparking. I kept getting my knee drained. I don't know how many times that season I got my knee drained and I put Synvisc or cortisone and PRP just in and out, in and out. I mean, it seemed like it was every freaking week, right? But then when I came back in the end of September, at the beginning of September, I had a really good September, right? I was going to be on the playoff roster in 17 or in 18. But they still had me doing this jumping, which never still makes sense on why I was doing this jump. They said it was to manage recovery, but this is all the analytical bull crap that was coming in. So then I remember right before game 1 against the Yankees, they made me do this before I could go out and play catch. And so I go and I do this, and then I can't walk, and I end up tearing it. I end up completely tearing it again, and that's why I got taken off the roster. But when you get taken off the roster, you can't get put back until the 2 series ago. So I was only going to be eligible to come back for the World Series. But by that point, I was still doing decent, rehabbing, but they were like, no, you got to have another surgery. So I went back and had a second surgery on my knee to revise from the first one. And then, by the time I got back from that, I was compensating. And then we ended up coming back from that, and then I hurt my elbow. And then and then even when I hurt my elbow, dude, like, I would wake up and my elbow would be like this, and I'd have to have a weight to come it down, and it's just a strain, and it's like they're trying to rehab it. It's taken me 2 hours just to get on the field, just to play, and I ended up taking that line drive off my foot. And I came back from that. I was, it was just one of those things to where I was there. They put me on the DL, but they put me on the DL for my elbow. They said it was for my foot, but it was for my elbow. So I go and I finally get an MRI and had a complete tear. So then it's like, PRP and all that stuff, and that never worked. And then I ended up getting Tommy John. They released me the day before my surgery. And so it's crazy.
Yeah, man, it sounds like that. Not only, like you said, not only the physical toll of what that's taking on your body, but how about how you're working towards this your entire life, and you're doing a good job of it, and you've made it. Now you're an all-star, and then pretty quickly, it's like, these injuries, and then they compound on top of each other. I think too, if the body isn't working, I found this within my own life. I'm not a not a professional athlete, or not even close, but when you create compensation or you have injury, you have a knee injury, the hip is going to start to act like a knee, and then the back is going to try to act like a hip, and it's going to just throw you completely out of whack.
The physical stuff we can get through, right? Like, you can, like, it sucked, man. Like, for 2 years, I couldn't, for 2 straight years, and it might have even been longer, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get out of bed and take a step. Like, and I'm not joking. Like, I mean, it was to the point where, like, every day when I got out of bed, I wasn't sure if I was going to step and fall over or step and actually be able to walk. I would sit down at dinner. I would sit down with my kids. I was trying to, like, it literally destroyed my life for 2.5 years being able, but yet I still had to go out there and pitch. And that's the thing that people don't understand. It's like my whole life was uprooted because of the fact that I was hurt. And, but how do you defend yourself against that, right? You can't say nothing because nobody's going to feel sorry for you, right? Nobody cares. The team cares enough for you to go out there and pitch, and so it got to a point where, like, for 2.5 years, man, like, I would have to sit there before I got up. I'd have to kind of move my knee around to kind of get the fluid moving. And then I would have to slowly put my weight on my foot to kind of test it out. And then it's like, all right, I'm good. But, like, trying to bend over, like, into, like, to play with my son or try to, like, catch my son throwing, there's no shot. I couldn't do it. And if I did get down, I didn't know if I was going to get back up, right? And so but the physical stuff, you learn how to adjust. Like you say, like, your body is an incredible organism to where you're going to figure out ways to still survive and thrive to a certain extent, but it's the mental. It's the mental drain. Every single day you get up not knowing if you're going to be able to walk or not. You're not going to be able, and then you're thinking about, am I going to be able to perform to provide for my family? Because if I'm having trouble right now and I have trainers everywhere I go, I have doctors, I have masseuses, I have whatever, chiropractors, I have them all at my fingertips, and then you get released and poof, they're gone. And now you got to deal with it yourself. So now you got to go through rehab all by yourself. You got to go find the place. And then now you got to go find that chiropractor. And then you got to figure out, is workman's comp going to pay for this? Because workman's comp is not what everybody says it is when you're in Major League Baseball, because they will limit how many treatments you get for Tommy John. And then you add your knee, and then you have to go through, like, the whole process of making sure that they approve it. Because if they don't approve it, you got to pay for it. And they're telling you that you're supposed to come back in 9 months on a surgery that everybody knows takes almost 2 years.
That's so wrong, man. That's so, that's the insurance-based model, the insurance-based healthcare. It's so broken. And the fact that it's even broken at the highest levels, like, that's so, it's not good. It's not a good place to be. And yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, and this is the other thing, nobody checks on you. I always say, like, I don't need an agent when I'm an all-star. I need an agent when I'm struggling. I need an agent when I'm rehabbing, or where I'm serving the suspensions, or when I'm having, family problems plus baseball problems. And it's like, that's when I need somebody to be there for me. But that's when nobody bothers you. Nobody calls to check in on you. Nobody checks, like, hey, dude, how are you doing mentally, right? Like, you're stuck down in Fort Myers for 6 months, rehabbing, trying to figure out, can I even walk, let alone throw a pitch? And you don't hear crickets. You're crickets. You get released and nothing. You get to say, hey, how'd surgery go? Oh, it's good. Oh, well, hit me up when you're ready to get back at it. You know what I'm saying? So then it's like, so the mental psyche is just, it really makes it to where you get these guys that get into a dark place, and then you add drugs on top of it. And then you got alcohol because of loneliness. Guys don't understand that like, you get lonely. You get to the point where you're feeling like you are literally, and whether they might say they care, but saying something and doing something are two different issues.
Yeah, it seems like it's such a rampant problem with anything, and it's another, again, a microcosm of society where when people need help, when they need support, it doesn't, it's almost the hardest time to find it. It's the sport's the hardest time to find it. And it's like, guys, that's not the way it should be. If you need help, you should be reaching out and thinking about your people. And, where the world is going makes me a little bit nervous in that regard, because we keep just, there's therapy, as for instance, like you said, there's therapy all available right now. You can go and get therapy online, but is it, you're doing a virtual appointment now. You're not even getting in touch with anybody. You're not sitting down. You might still be lonely, and all the all stuff, man, raising kids. It's a gambit.
I think the other issue is the fact that, I went through this, and it's like nobody's going to reach out for help.
Of course not. That's the thing. Is like, you never. I mean, when I was in my darkest times, it's like you don't even realize that you're in the dark times. You don't even realize, you're just pushing through, and like you would never, it would be embarrassing to ask for help because you've done everything else on your own your whole life, and you've gotten success from doing that. And so why would I need help?
We all know how important strength training is for long-term health, but it can be hard to know where to start. I was in the same spot a year ago. You want to make sure you're doing exercises right, avoiding injury, and getting results. But it's easy to feel lost without a plan. That's when I found On Target Fitness. At On Target, you get a custom strength program, personalized attention in a small group setting, and the nutrition coaching you need for real lasting change. In the year I've been working out there, I've gotten stronger, more mobile, and more confident. My form has improved, and even something as simple as walking feels better. The group energy keeps me motivated, and every workout is fun. On Target just opened a new location in Kingston. Now you've got even more options to experience their amazing approach. If you're ready for lasting change, head to www.ontargetfit.com and schedule your session today.
Yeah, and especially when you're playing, when you're an athlete, right? And you're in the public eye, it's like, what does this guy got to be depressed about? He's playing for the Red Sox. He's an all-star. Oh, he made whatever, or he's doing like, what does he have to be depressed about? Oh, why he's having marital issues? Like what? Like what do they have to be worried about? Like they must have the life that everybody wants. He's living the dream of what he always dreamed of when he was a kid. And it's like, and people they don't care. They do not. It's like, you can't convince me that they do, because nobody's shown it. And I'm not the only one, right? When it comes to these things, like you see it all the time with athletes when they get out of the game or they're even in the game. It's like, it's like unless you're a star, unless you're bringing an ROI to the organization or to the league, that's the only time they care. And the only time they really care is when it makes them look bad. That's the only time that they come out with support or discipline, is that it's only when it makes themselves look bad, because that's not a good image. The public image is what they talk about. You see it all the time, whether it's in freaking, politics or movie stars, or, you start looking at, the horror things of like Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. You're like, this guy's been doing that for 30 years and nobody knew, and then all of a sudden it comes out and everybody knew. It's like, why didn't you say something?
Why did you say something? I think about this all the time. It's like, what the fuck was going on? There's so much hidden from us, that people don't know what's going on. There's so many different worlds that people live in, and it's like, fuck, man.
It's all optics, man.
Yeah, it's all optics based, and I think that it's, although there is a reality where it could get better with what's happening with technology. I think we're going in the opposite direction, where narrative and control is going to become even greater, and what they want people to believe and what they want people to see. They have complete control over that now, and
especially with AI.
Scary. Especially with AI, dude. It's crazy. Everyone tells me all the time how much they're using AI in their business and how much helping them. They're using it as a personal assistant, all this stuff. I ask, you want to know what? I asked, hey, AI, help me. I'm doing a podcast tomorrow with, former Red Sox pitcher, Steve Wright. Just give me some background on him, please. I want this, and this. You want to know what they said? You want to know what it came back and said? It said that you pitched for the Chatham A's. And I said, hey, fucker, Actually, no, he didn't pitch for the Chatham A's. He pitched for the Orleans Cardinals, who are now the Orleans Firebirds. It's like, how can I have to have that knowledge as a human. And if I didn't have that knowledge as a human, I would have thought coming into today that you paid for the A's, because that's what everyone's doing now, is they're just asking AI instead of doing their own research. And so I only did it I don't use it for this purpose because of that. But I wanted to see like, oh, maybe this could help me. Maybe this could make me more efficient. And what it's done, and I've done it for the last 4 podcasts, and it has made me more frustrated. It made me know that the AI is lying, that it doesn't have integrity. A lot of scary stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. And so, no, but the cannabis helped you, right? So the cannabis, it was a helpful thing, and you saw that in your life. I mean, I went through the same experience where cannabis to me, I was, drinking, being from the Northeast, where we're drowned in it over here. So alcohol was just put on me at a young age, and I always did like to be in control, so I never was the blackout type, but I did drink alcohol, and cannabis was very vilified. It's what it's what losers do. Makes you lazy. And then I went through my stuff, and with painkillers and all that. I needed to heal, and I did heal. I stopped doing everything for years, for 5-6 years, whatever. And then I wanted to need some help sleeping. I needed some help, and I started to re-engage with cannabis. And I found out how beautiful this substance was, and how it could really be helpful. And then I did all the research into what it was doing for people medically, and veterans with PTSD, severe PTSD, finally getting, some sleep and some comfort in their life. People with debility.
It helps people learn. It doesn't mask, right? And I think everybody are talking about, I don't want to, like, when you're talking about PTSD, right? It's like, they don't want the flashback, so they try to suppress it. And like I said, I'm not a doctor. I understand enough about it, but like when you get these hormones and these emotions that are uncontrollable for a post-traumatic stress situation, whether it's a car accident or if it's war, right? And so they're constantly suppressing it. They're not processing it. And so it's like, and I think that's where cannabis really has a good opportunity, is because, at the end of the day, we still don't want people so dependent on cannabis to where they don't, they're just doing that as an escape, right? Because I think there are some people that are abusing it in some senses, but when you're talking about on a medicinal aspect for people that have stress, to that point, it's using it a way for them to cope with the stress, to process the stress, not to mask it, because your problems aren't going away just because you take a pill, right? And so you take a pill, they're away. It's like, yeah, until you got to take another pill. And then what happens when that doesn't work? What do? They up the milligrams. And then they up the milligrams, and they change prescriptions. And then all of a sudden it puts your hormones in a whack. And then next thing you know, you're like, suicide rates for soldiers is 22 a day. And it's probably gone up, right? And it's like, why is that, right? Why? Like, nobody ever asks why. Why are they killing themselves? Why are people committing suicide at such an exaggerated amount of a day? Or these shootings and these public situations where these people are going psychotic. And then if you really start pulling the onions back, I was like, why doesn't everybody ask what medications they're on? Like, what are they taking? Now, is there a correlation? I don't know, but nobody's even asking. You're talking about these people that have these severe mental disorders, and everybody's talking about the gun, but they're not talking about the prescription drugs that they're on either. And it's like, the gun was the tool. The mind is what put them and drove them to do what they're doing. And so when you talk about, with cannabis, and, especially even with pain, it's like, that's why I used it, is because I didn't want to suppress the pain. I wanted to feel the pain, but I also needed to know when I needed to back off.
Cannabis products are becoming more popular every day. Whether you're looking for the best night's sleep, trying to mitigate daily stress, or just trying to enjoy some laughter with friends, OG Cannabis is the store for you. OG Cannabis has an unbiased approach that is unique and simple. Unlike the competition, they don't sell their own manufactured products, but instead proudly showcase the best vendors across Maine. A dispensary like no other. Come and visit today at 18 American Way, Elliott, Maine. OG Cannabis. Oh, and don't forget to use my promo code, Dr. BeeWell. See you guys there. Giddy up.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to put that, because it really is with success and growth in anything, you need to go through it. The only way is through. And so, yeah, I was doing the exact same thing. I wanted to just hide from the pain. I wanted to hide from, being uncomfortable and, the pain from my accident. But then, once I realized, then I got, I stopped doing that, but I didn't deal with the trauma for 5, 6, 7 years afterwards. And, I was trying to, and probably dealt with it in certain ways, but not fully. But then, around the same time when I started to engage in cannabis is when I started to, realize that I needed to move my body, that I needed to do these exercises. I needed to do yoga. I needed to lift weights, and all this stuff came back into it. And it kind of stinks now because I'm seeing on, as now I thought maybe we'd be moving more towards, freedom where more people could have access to cannabis and we could study it more and really, really do the true medical, the medical research, what me and you have talked about, which is being done, but kind of sometimes is being suppressed. We would find out all these beautiful things that we could use it for our health, for our, not just to eat, but to use in materials, to use on our bodies, to feed our, to feed our livestock, all these wonderful building materials. But it's getting vilified again a little bit, I feel like, where people are making it seem like, oh, you see different stuff over cannabis use. And yeah, THC has increased, exponentially for, in terms of the percentage in the plant and what people are having, smoke consistently or eat consistently. But it's a wonderful substance that really that needs to be understood with nuance. And I feel like there's recently, maybe within like the last year, we've been going backwards when that's not where we should be going. We should be going full forwards. Is two people here share their beautiful experience, how it has helped them with their life and made them better people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the one thing that people don't understand. And that's the thing when you're talking about, with cannabis, and I think it has been vilified because of, honestly, I think because of the rec market. To be honest with you, I think that because people they understand cannabis to the point where, but they always say, oh, it's better than alcohol, right? And if you're going to make those comparisons, then yes, I will agree with you, right? But it's like, I think that's the issue, is that you have the people that are using it for medicinal purposes, but that's still such a small percentage, and people can't make claims because of the FDA, because of these different drugs that are out there, and and they do vilify, right? It's always been known as the gateway drug, the Ronald Reagan days, right? To where you get to the point where everybody's put such a bad name on it, and I think it's warranted because of the just the stereotypes that have been built and have been verified, right, over the years of the type of people that are typically the ones are smoking weed are the lazy people, right, or the ones that are first it was the rappers, and then it was the artists, and then you got these these kids, these emo kids, and they're always putting these things in a box, but nobody ever has figured out, like, why are they dependent on that, right? Or why are they using it? Why try to figure out in their mind, why are they using it just to use it? Are they using it for a social? But then you start looking at, okay, where are we at now, right? We understand that there's a lot of rec markets out there, and then, the medical market, to me, is just a glorified rec market, to be honest with you. I mean, it should be the same. But when you start having drugs that are being prescribed, like Epidiolex, right? When you start having these drugs, and this is where my mind goes, right? So they're using Epidiolex for seizures for adolescent kids, right? So that's being prescribed right now, right? In the U.S., passed by the FDA. If it can do that, what else can it do, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you can do that, and all it is CBD isolates, MCT oil, and I'm sure there might be other new ingredients in there. I'm not sure, but like that's being done right now in the U.S., worldwide too, right? And then you have, like, for our company, like, we have patents overseas on our CBD formula at addressing general inflammation and inducing autophagy. Like, we know that. We're waiting on our U.S. patent. So, like, we do know that this is working. It's like, and then you get certain, there's a Charlotte's Web is doing one for autism, right? So, like, all of this is being done right now, and yet you're telling me that it's alternative medicine, which is hard to control, in my opinion, right? And so I think that when you're talking about cannabis as a whole, it's tough to have that argument with somebody that knows nothing about it.
Right.
Like they know nothing.
Yeah. What?
You're just trying to fight what we've been told for 50 years.
Right. It's this is hard for me sometimes because I've been in it for so many years now when I like knowing that it's good and knowing that there's benefits to it and that when it's hard for me sometimes when I have somebody come in and they still have those stigmas and I need to slowly walk them through. And we need people who are good at that. We need the education around it where people can be walked through and can say, hey man, this don't be afraid of this. Like you kind of said it great. Like I'm not looking for the high. I'm not looking to get high here necessarily. I'm looking to help me with, anxiety. I'm looking to help me with sleep. I'm looking to help me with PTSD. I'm looking to help me with creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I do think it can be a medicine, I do think it can be, you can use it as a tool for, for enhancement as well. Like you said, and with recovery, you don't necessarily need to be sick to take it or to use it and to benefit from it. I think that so you've been now post career, you've been involved in cannabis and have been consulting with businesses and very much so in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of got started. I got into the cultivation aspect in California, which is just being ran to the ground. I mean, that state is destroying pretty much everything that it touches in the cannabis world and probably more and everything. The black market, right? And that gives a stigma to cannabis where, you get all this cannabis being moved state to state, being sold in the black market to where now you're talking about people, oh, they can get it cheaper on the black market, but yeah, you don't have the regulations of the testing. So who knows what they're putting into those facilities that now they're combusting it and now you're inhaling that. And it's like, we're going to find out in 20 years that people are getting cancer because they're smoking cannabis. And it's like, well, it's not the cannabis itself. It's whatever freaking chemicals they're using to grow.
The heinous pesticides that they're using. Yeah, it's an epidemic up here in Maine for sure.
Oh, I definitely can believe it. Now you get into the synthetics, and you're getting into now you get the THCA and you get all this THCV, THCP, and all these other things that, they say they claim that they know there's a lot of, but at the same time, like, although I'm a proponent for cannabis and people to explore, there's still a lot we don't know, right? A lot of it is anecdotal evidence when it comes to what does it do for you. This is what it did for this person that had similar, but you can't make any claims, right? You can't say this is for this. Like we can't call an anti-inflammatory until we go through preclinical studies, but our patent in the UK says it addresses general inflammation. And so I went down the medical side. I want the research. I want to be able to say this is our preclinical data. We induced cytokine storms in mice. We did all of our studies at MTSU. Our group entered an agreement with MTSU about 8-9 years ago to just study cannabis. So everything we've done has been done in a $250 million lab at MTSU. Went from animal feeding it instead of livestock, instead of feeding it corn, fed it cannabis seeds and distiller grains for the cows. We did chickens and pigs. We had a little bit of issue with the USDA on that one. And then we went to CBD and we started, working with different formulas. And then once we found the CBDA formulation, we started filing patents. So we filed patents in 6 countries right now. We got the UK, the only 2 that have been issued and approved. We're waiting on our US patent. Our EU patent should be coming hopefully this summer. Then we're planning on going to clinical trials for that. But then even with like cleaning disinfectants, right? Like when you're talking about growing in a cannabis facility for consumption, like if you're going to call it medicine, it's got to be treated like medicine. No different than if you go into an FDA approved drug manufacturer, like it's got to be clean. It's got to be sanitized. But then when you're talking about cannabis, it's like, well, how do you do that, right? There's nothing out there that's, EPA approved, right? Well, now we have it. We have a CannaGuard Pro that we're launching. It should be hitting the market here in the next 2 weeks or so, hopefully sooner. We're waiting on manufacturer to get it in, and where it kills everything. We can make kill claims because it's approved by the EPA, but it's safe to use around plants. We haven't got approved for on-plant use yet, but we are planning on going towards that as well. But it gets rid of mold and mildew. It cleans water lines completely brand new inside out, and it doesn't corrode. So your scissors to You can do your coils of your HVAC system. I mean, as long as plants aren't in there, you can run it through and it'll clean and disinfect everything and kill everything. It's got a kill time of 15 to 60 seconds, depending on what it is. I mean, we have a whole kill list. And so that's just another way that we're trying to keep everything
safe to be around humans.
safe. Yeah. Toxicity level number 4, dude. And so,
okay, giddy up.
Goggles, man. Like, you can drink it, dude. It's sodium chloride is the active ingredient. There's some other minute ingredients that are proprietary, but they're in our EPA certification, man. You ain't got to look hard to find it, because it's approved, right? And so it's right now we're approved federally in 49 of the 50 states. California is the only one, and we're like on the waiting list. I think we're like number 6 right now to be reviewed by state of California. So we're state approved in 24 states. So we're able to purchase orders in those 24 states, but we're sending samples to 49 states. And for us, and the same thing with the tissue culture, right? Like tissue culture is an advanced way of growing cannabis, and a lot of people just don't understand that that's how you should. Even if you're getting your moms from there, you should be getting a tissue culture mom. And then you can be clipping 1 or 2 clippings off of that to keep your pure strong. And I'm sure you can go further down. I'm not a cultivator, but I do know that tissue culture is a way to preserve your genetics so they're strong, healthy, to the point where we can even take a genetic and genetic sequence it, and then we can actually put biomarkers on it to wrap an IP around it and then patent that, right? And I think that's the way you protect yourself against pharmaceutical companies that are going to be coming in. Eventually they're going to come in, right? And so if they start owning all these genetics, and then it's like now you're kind of pigeonholing yourself to have to rely on them to get your work, right? And so, but for me, it's all about regenerative, right? Like, we want to do the safest. So this is we actually have like soft gels,
What's the name of the brand?
It's called Tanasi. I'll send you a link. And then we have topicals, and it works against autoimmune diseases too. It induces autophagy, right, or autophagy, which is your body's ability to get rid of dead cells. Like, it induces that, right? It's like, it doesn't treat, doesn't cure, it doesn't do none of that, but it's safe and it's effective and it works. There's no side effects, right? So I wish I had this when I was playing, because my stomach, dude, I got to the point where I was pissing blood. And it's like, you get to a point where your liver, your kidneys, and all this stuff are just getting trashed by all these, NSAIDs out there. And so it's like, and that's like when I got linked up with these guys, and, I do some other things on, for consulting. Like, for me, it's just trying to make things safe and effective and regenerative, right? Like, we can't keep destroying our environment, can't keep destroying nature, including our bodies, by what we put in our system.
Yeah, I have, there's this awesome, teacher that I follow and we've had on the podcast named Sabine Hazen, and she's a microbiome specialist, and she's talking about how the microbiome and the destruction of the microbiome is analogous to what's happening on the outside world in nature. And it's because of all the stuff that we're putting into it, the pesticides, the bad food, it just compounds on top of each other. Now I think this is great with Tanasi, and have you been able to, put your hand back into, players that you're maybe still in contact with that are in the league that you can share this with and say, like, hey man, this is a better than what I was doing when I was there, and maybe you could try this?
It's hard, man, because when you're a post player, it's really hard to get in because of, they signed a contract. Charlotte's Web paid like an ungodly amount of money to be the CBD sponsor for, MLB. Right. In order for somebody to take this, there needs to be 2 things. One, it needs to be passed by NSF Certified for Sports, which is a testing agency that every batch you got to send in, they test it to make sure there's no banned substances, or it's got to be FDA. Right. So even with Charlotte's Web, it was like they had to create a whole new brand that all of them have to be sent in for NSF testing to make sure there's no banned substances, because it's not approved by the FDA. So
they had to create that testing so that they could subvert the FDA, because the FDA won't allow them to study this.
Well, it's not so much that, it's just because it's considered a supplement, right? So
right, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Drug, it's a supplement. So the NSF Certified for Sports does like pre-workouts, proteins, all that. And what they do is every batch that you make, you send it through the FDA or the NSF, Certified for Sports. They test it, and then they'll put batch numbers on it. So then what happens is every time as long as you take something that's NSF approved and you fail and you can send in that batch number, they'll take that batch number and they'll test it. And then if it comes back, then it's a negative. It'll come back as a negative, right? And so that's where this falls under. So it's really hard, and I wouldn't even want to attempt, even though I know it's safe and we have the testing and we have all that stuff, because it's like you're kind of going to hit a dead end, because people, even though I know it's safe and I know it's effective and I know it works, they don't know that, and it's not worth the risk, right? It's not worth. I mean, that's how I got failed, man. I was taking everything because I was trying to come back, man. I got sick and tired of being hurt. You know, when I went through the 18 season, I went from being a guy, all-star, all this, to being obsolete. And then I come back, and the next thing you know, the team got me jumping on these pressure plays. They got me doing all this stuff, saying that this is beneficial to me. And then I get hurt again, and then I have surgery. So, like, at the time, I was shotgunning it. You know, I was going to IV treatments and getting, like, Myers cocktails. I was taking different supplements. I was doing whatever I could, and I was very careless about, you know, what I was putting in my body, right? And then what happened was they found 4 picograms of a banned substance in my system.
That's how small it was. That's how much it was. It was 4 picograms.
4 picograms in the first test, and
so it wasn't. So someone was mixing something. It was likely in a cocktail with something else, and you just didn't really know what was going in there.
So hard to say, man, because it was a peptide of some sort. They couldn't really tell me exactly what it was. This is before I know a lot more about peptides now, and I wish I knew what I know now then, because then I would have been like, I would have went straight and took. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to put people in, but there's some peptides out there that I would have 100% risked doing it, but I would have actually taken it personally and just said, you know what, F it. I'm trying to recover. I'm trying to get back. And these are the things that I know that can do that. And so, but it didn't matter, because the way the CBA is written, it was up for me to prove where it came from, how it got in my body, prove that it was accidental. And it's like, and it doesn't matter that it had no therapeutic dose in my system. It doesn't matter. Like, it literally does not matter. Like, you could have somebody lace something into your system. Like, dude, I could put a cream on you that has like some testosterone in it, and you would not know. Like, put it in your sock if you really wanted to be a dick, and you could fail a drug test, and there's nothing. You're not gonna win, because that's the way the CBA is written. Right? There is
right. Yeah.
Like, you don't have protection, man. You go into this hearing and you basically argue your facts. But at the end of the day, all the MLB are going to say is like, well, was it NSF certified for sports? Was like, some of it was, not all of it. Well, it doesn't matter, because just saying that it was accidental or it was unknowns, or it doesn't. They say it doesn't matter. It's not up to us to defend anything. It's what is written in the CBA. And it's up to us to prove where all this went. Dude, I was having my wife send me her eye creams, her lotions. I'm sending this stuff in because I didn't know where it came from. I sent so much stuff in to get tested, and it didn't matter. None of it came back. And dude, dude, that's a whole nother. It is what it is, dude. It's like, you know what? At the end of the day, I was careless. I was putting stuff in my body, but the fact that it was 4 picograms is like, dude, there's guys that I know that have failed 7 times for something that is biologically in their system. Look at John Jones, man. Like, failing. Well, if there's a fat enzyme in their organs, it's on the lining of their organs, and when on a stressful day, it releases some, I can't remember what it's called. And so, like, he was going like fail, pass, fail, fail. Like, all within a week, he'd have like 3 passes and 2 fails. It's like, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. MLB just, all sports are like that, because at the end of the day, it's like, unless you're a big name guy, that's my viewpoint, man. I think that unless you're a top rated guy that is gonna Because yeah, man, that's a whole nother conversation.
No, brother, I hear you though. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's in and out, and it's just not taking care of the people, which is really what we need to do and what your focus is, and
Yeah,
what you've been doing here with cannabis and the CBD and the Cannagar stuff. And um, have you been up to Maine? Have you been up to Maine at all?
I have, man. I mean, my first couple times was playing, playing in Portland, and then most recently I was up in Nican in Boston, and I got linked up with this guy, an incredible guy named Steve Dunker, man, who you know. And I mean, Dunker, I mean, he's doing what it needs to be done as far as like the cleanliness, the effectiveness, the efficacious products, and he's got OG cannabis, and so I mean his dispensaries is exactly what the honestly, in my opinion, and I'm sure there's other ones out there that I haven't been to, but he's doing it how it should be done, right? It needs to be ran like a business and not as just selling weed, right? And I think that's where a lot of these places are failing, is because it's such a big cash driven business that people are forgetting that it's still a business, right? So I've
Yeah, man.
It's the no, we love Dunker and we love OG. It's a great place because they're putting like they've kind of gotten out of the way a little bit and said, hey, we're going to be experts in the retail business, which is going to provide people with the best brands that exist within Maine. Did you get to check out any of the brands?
Yeah, dude. Well, that's what I love about him, because it's one of those things, people talk like that, but then he introduced me to Firefly Organics and Helios, and so I met Ted and Stavros and those guys, and we, me and our CEO Jeff, because we're pushing this Canagar Pro, and meeting them in Boston, we're like, bro, like, let's drive up. It's only like an hour and a half. Let's drive up to Scarborough. Let's go check out the facility. Bro, it's the best facility I've ever been into. It is the cleanest. It is, I mean, it was like to the point where like here we are with a cleaning disinfectant, and we're like, you guys are pretty damn clean, right? So yeah, like working with Ted and talking to Ted, even with Stavros, right? But like, we spent the tour with Ted up at the facility. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Honestly, like I've never seen anything. I mean, it is ran just like, we talk about, if you're going to call it medicine, it needs to be treated like medicine. And that facility, dude, is like walking into a lab. But that's what it should be, man. Like that's how it should be ran. But it's so hard sometimes because the margins aren't there for people that don't know how to do it. So I hope and pray that Ted and those guys being able to monetize their SOPs whenever they can take that and bring it into other grow facilities, because by implementing those things, like they're going to be able to really help the cannabis market around the world, because that's how it should be done, man. Because if you're going to be combusting things and eating things and digesting things, like it all starts with the plant. It all starts at the grow, right? And so it's like it has to be clean from the beginning, right? And through the processing, because even if you're doing concentrates, if there's a little bit in the growth cycle and you concentrate it, now you got a lot. Right. And so it's like, yeah. So, I mean, so those are the only ones that I've been to, honestly, man. And I don't think it can get any better.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. The homies are doing it right, for sure. I was waiting for that to happen within the market coming from pharmacy. I knew at some point it was going to switch where I was going into some of these a lot of them were houses at first, converted houses, and then people started to move towards bigger commercial spaces, and that's when I first started to see it. I said, yep, okay, this is going exactly towards where we need to keep a clean environment, and you can still do different things. You can grow in a different environment. You can grow and then process it, because they're growing, they're processing, and they're doing everything in house and keeping it clean from the start to the finish. And the SOPs are strong, of course, because of the the product that they're putting out there. And I couldn't agree more. I'm glad that you got to get up there and see them and see what the best of Maine has.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited because, we're trying to, obviously get our product out there, and they're going to be a great platform for us too. I mean, even with Dunker, man, like what Dunker's doing with, the vetting processes of these. So, if you want good, high quality cannabis and you're going to be safe and effective in vetted groups, that you can go to Dunker, because that's why they are as popular as they are, is because of that process. They're not letting anybody just come in and sell their products on the shelves, because even if it's somebody else's brand, if they're going to OG to get it, it becomes their brand. They have to stand behind that. And that's what Dunker has done so well, is being able to make sure that anything that comes in, he's going to basically put his name on. So when it leaves, they know that they're getting a high quality vetted product to where it's safe and it's effective and educational.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, and it's what the industry needs.
Totally.
Mr. Wright, Steve Wright, but I have one thing I want to ask you. So, because I grew up in Dunker as well. He's a PH. We're a bunch of Steves, right? A bunch of Steves, and so I grew up as a PH, and you grew up as a V. Was there? Do you feel like there's a difference? Do you feel like there's a big difference between the ongoing battle between the V's and the PHs?
So there's a basketball player for the Golden State Warriors. He's a shooter. What's his name?
He fucked everything up.
What's his name?
Steph Curry. I know, Steph Curry.
What's his name?
Stephen. Yeah, Stephen. I know. You want to know? It's like it was always the AN, so I could be like, oh, that's an AN, and then that fucker came up and he's like, oh, I'm gonna spell my name like this and call myself Steph.
I got a question for you. What is our nation's national language? English. Right?
English.
And what do we make when there's a PH? Not V. It's not Steve. Steven. Not Stephen.
I love it. I love it. And I'll say back to that if you look at the Bible, the oldest text that we have, it's spelled with a PH.
It is. But is that how they pronounce it, though?
Right, exactly. We have no clue. Exactly. What were they calling that fuck back then?
That was Greek and Hebrew.
Yeah, exactly. We can't tell.
Translation. It could. I mean, it's one of those things you don't know.
You don't know. I love it. I love the ongoing battle. The thing is too is the V's have taken over entirely. The PHs, we're just holding on. We're just trying to fucking fight because of the Steph Currys and because of the people trying to take our name from us.
Yeah. How come it says STEVE? On your thing.
Dude, you want to know? And you want to know what? It's because I go by everything. I go by Steve, Stevie, Steven, Ivo, whatever you want. Most people call me Ivo.
Yeah.
My last name. So it's like, but I've my friend and I had a friend in college who was a V, and he would always say like, he's the antithesis of me, and he would always say, well, if I'm going to call you Steve, if we're going to shorten it, we're going to call you Steffi. And I was like, all right, STEPHE, Steffi. That's what those fucks would call me.
There you go.
Yeah, giddy up, man. But I'm glad that we can talk about the battle a little bit. I'm super grateful to have you on today. I'd love to next time you're up in Maine. I'd love to have you in studio and have you actually down for a proper sit down.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. I would love that.
No, giddy up. We'll send it. Guys. Please check out Steve. Steve's stuff. If you want to contact him, on LinkedIn or
anywhere. Yeah, I mean, you can hand out my number for all I care.
Oh, giddy up, baby. Giddy up. So if you want to get in contact with Steve Wright, you give me a call. You guys follow the show. Please subscribe, like it, share it with your friends. If people like the Red Sox, like we used to back in the day, please share this podcast with them. If people need some healing, people need to understand that cannabis is a medicine and that it's helping this world. Please share this podcast with them. Until next time, giddy up.